Hi guys, Chester Westerford here. Welcome to the channel and another Doctor Who video. So, with a new year just beginning, I thought it'd be fun to look into the future of Doctor Who today. Yes, know we still have 2 episodes of the Chibnall era to go, and I am looking forward to those, especially Legend of the Sea Devils. That looks quite good, but there's not much I can say about those, but there are some things I have to say about the impending RTD2 era. I have a list of things that I'm hoping for, and some things that I'm expecting to see that I'm not really for or against necessarily, and I just think that they're going to happen. And then I will end with one thing that I am both hoping for and I believe, as Thanos would say, will be inevitable. So here we go. First, 3 things that I really hope for in the RTD2 era. Number 1, better promotion leading to a resurgence in popularity. You have to admit, the promotion of this series, no matter what you think about the series itself, I think has been pretty poor for the last few years. Maybe not in the UK, I don't know how it goes over there, but everywhere else you just don't hear anything about it if you're not looking. Um, I see advertisements for other shows and I hear about all sorts of other shows, but I never hear anything about Doctor Who, hardly. Unless it's an ad for AMC Plus or something, I do see that sometimes. But generally, there's just not much out there. And I'm hoping that better promotion will pair with an elevation in writing quality, or at least a writing quality that will be more popular with the general public. I'm not saying I want it to be the most popular show in the world or anything, but I'd like to see it become more popular again. I kind of miss the days when I'd see merchandise all over the place and be able to get the merchandise. Like, there used to be a time when I'd go into Barnes and Noble, for instance, and see a whole display devoted to Doctor Who with action figures, books, sonic screwdrivers, backpacks, stuff like that. And so many people left Doctor Who in the Capaldi and Whittaker eras that think it just wasn't profitable anymore. And we also used to get cinema screenings over here. I went to see, the 50th anniversary, the Power of the Daleks animation, and Legopolis on the big cinema screen. That was fun. I kind of want those things to be financially viable again so we can have those experiences over here and get the merchandise. We don't really get any action figures anymore, at least not that I've seen. Most of them are B&M exclusives in the UK, and if we want them over here, we have to pay like $30 to $50 over the retail price, which I don't know about anybody else, but I can't afford that. We did get a wave on Amazon last year, but I guess those didn't sell well enough to get, I don't know, more of those waves, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I'd love to see, I don't know, just something again. And the second thing I hope for from R2D2, and this is one that I think is very probable depending on how the first one goes. Like, if the show doesn't get more popular, I don't know, maybe we won't get this as much. But, anyways, the second thing is spin offs. If that resurgence does happen, then I think you could put this in the inevitable part. RTD has gone on record saying that he would love there to be a whole Doctor Who extended universe, kind of like everybody else is doing these days. And if anyone can make that happen, I think he can. Especially with the backing of Bad Wolf and, by extension, Sony. I would love to see the Ace Adventures or the Nissa Adventures or whatever. Maybe even another K9 spinoff or Jenny the Doctor's Daughter. There are so many things they could do, and I'd be up for any of it. Well, most of it. I'm not sure the Adventures of Syl would be very entertaining, for instance. But I also don't think that would ever happen. Thank God. And the third thing I'm hoping for from the RTD2 era, the return of the Christmas specials. Christmas is my favorite holiday. Absolute favorite. And I used to love being able to combine 2 of my favorite things once every year. And on top of that, many of the Christmas specials were just so much fun. That's something that I think the Chibnall era has been lacking. It's just not as fun as it used to be. At least not to me. Maybe it is to you, and that's great if it is. But it's just, I don't know, like compare like what we get for these New Year's Day specials, which in my opinion have been some of the best episodes of the Chibnall era, but they're not really like they call them festive specials, but they're not festive. They're some of the most action-packed, more serious, except for this last one, more serious, more like scary episodes, which is great. I'm not knocking those. I think they were great, but I just miss that fun magicalness that you get out of Christmas. Like, I want to see less annual serious Dalek stories and more Christmas carols, more Last Christmases, or even more Dr. Mysterios. And yes, I do realize that all those I've listed are Moffat specials, but the point still stands. Christmas is such a fun time to do a special. I just miss that magical, fun balance between good drama and really good fun. And Christmas specials are to me one way in which that balance could be brought back. And that's my three things I hope for from the RTD2 era. Now, the three things that I think are inevitable in RTD2. Number one thing that I think is inevitable in the RTD2 era: better written wokeness. I'm calling it wokeness just because I'm not sure what else to call it. What I really mean is those stories that have a message. Like, they're all over sci fi, and they've always been all over Doctor Who. Although it's been generally much more explicit in the Chibnall era, that doesn't mean it hasn't been there before. Especially in the Pertwee era, particularly under Letts and Dix. You look at some of those stories, I mean, just look at the Green Death or the Peloton stories. There are lots of stuff from that era. They were there, it's just the problem with some of the stories in the Chibnall era, just they either present it in a not very well written story or present it by beating you over the head with it, with the doctor turning towards the camera and talking to the audience. I mean, I don't really have a problem with the writers wanting to send a message, but just don't beat us over the head with it and do it in a better told story. And I think with RTD, based on, what he's been doing lately and where the world is and where TV is in general, I think we're going to get more of that. I don't think that's going to end. I think some people are hoping that it's going to end. I don't think it's going to end. But what I do think is going to happen is I think it's going to get better. I'm sorry, Chibnall fans, but, it's just not been for me. And it's not been for a lot of people, I think. And I'm not saying that everything Chibnall has done has been terrible. I just think that RTD can do it better. Number two things that will probably happen in the RTD2 era: a continuation of the serialized format. This may or may not happen, of course, but I think it's likely that Flux was only the first season and not the only season to tell a serialized story in the way that it did. I mean, it is the way that television has been going, and it is what RTD did for his last couple of series. I didn't see It's a Sin, and I haven't seen all of Years and Years, but they were both that type of show, weren't they? Just one story told over several episodes? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I understand that they were. And to be honest, I would be kind of surprised if he doesn't end up doing this for Doctor Who in the future. Wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing either. If it's true and it does happen, there will be a part of me that will miss the weekly stories, but I do like me some good cliffhangers, and RTD was always very good at cliffhangers. And when done well, ideas of longer stories can be done just as good as, say, WandaVision or Loki. There is another positive point I would like to make concerning this, but it's related to my next point, so I'm just gonna make it then. And the third thing that I think is most probable for the RTD2 era, in fact, I think this one is going to be a definite, another soft reboot. I think we can take it for granted that this will be a very different show with minimal ties to the previous Chibnall era. I mean, every other era has been sort of a new reboot, which is not a bad thing. A learning show like this needs to be rebooted every once in a while so as not to let it grow stale. And I'm not saying he's going to rewrite anything. He's not going to rewrite The Timeless Child, for instance. That would be disrespectful to Chibnall and just a bad idea for the consistency of the show overall. I just think the tone will be different, and there won't be like any returning companions unless it's like maybe an anniversary special or something. I think it'll be a sort of reboot, kind of like the 11th Hour was, where we not only meet a new doctor, but we meet the doctor again through the eyes of a new companion, whoever he or she may be. And as a related note to my last point, if they do a serialized format, I really wouldn't mind seeing each series have an overarching title like Flux did. Rather than just having series 14, 15, etc., we could have, I don't know, something like Doctor Who, The Winds of Time. Not that particularly obviously, but I think having an overarching title instead of just a number might aid in bringing in new viewers. If someone is interested in watching it but realizes, oh, there's 13 seasons I have to go through before this. Wow, that's a lot. They might plan to watch it someday and either put it on a watch list where they forget about it or realize they don't have whatever streaming services it's on in that particular country and just never got around to it. Whereas if it's promoted as like with a title instead, like a new story, they might be more inclined to check it out. Especially if they do something which I think is not definite, but I think it's probably likely. So we're going to get the 60th anniversary special, and then we're going to get season 14. And I think, well, it might be best. And what I think might happen, I could be wrong, but I think it might happen is we as the fans get introduced to the new Doctor in the 60th anniversary. He or she has the post regeneration trauma thing, and then series 14 comes along. There's a new Doctor, meets a new companion, starts a new serialized story under one overarching title, and I think that would be a great way to get new viewers involved. I think if it's promoted that way and the story is done that way with no real baggage or anything, it could be kind of like Rose all over again. This might be a great thing for the show. And now for the last thing, which is something that I think is both hoped for and entirely inevitable. It will be very different from RTD1. Whatever we do get from RTD the second, I truly believe it will not be a carbon copy of seasons 1 through 4 plus the specials. RTD has grown as a person, he's grown as a writer, and the TV landscape has changed. I think he'll adapt to that. He already has in his other writing. So if you're hoping for more Rose and 10 adventures, then I'm sorry, I think you're going to be disappointed. But if you do want more Rose and 10 adventures, there is always Big Finish. You could check out those. But yeah, I think that's the way it is. I think it's just going to change and it's not going to be exactly the same. And I think that just makes it all the more exciting. The idea that we don't know what's coming up excites me for the show more than I've been for a while. Well, since the beginning of Flux. I was pretty excited then. But yeah, bringing Doctor Who more up to date could go either really well in the right hands or really bad in the wrong hands. But thankfully, though, I really think RTD will be the right hands. So, what do you guys think? What are you looking forward to about the RTD2 era? Do you have any hopes or expectations or any casting ideas for the next Doctor? Or next companions, even? Let me know in the comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.